Hi friends, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. The prosecutors in this case have generally been putting on a pretty coherent and cohesive case, although because of the multiple parties involved, there's been a lot of overlap between what Baldwin was responsible for and what Hannah Gutierrez-Reed is responsible for. And some of that came about in the testimony we're going to talk about today, which is that of the expert armorer. But first, I want to take you back to 1993. Hindsight is always 20/20. And you would expect that there having been a few accidents on Hollywood scenes, that Hollywood and movie people in general would sort of learn from all of that. Let me take you back to the year 1993, which incidentally is the year that I graduated from law school. There was a up-and-coming actor by the name of Brandon Lee. He was the son of the great Bruce Lee, and he was starring in a movie called The Crow. And what happened? Well, one of the things that we were taught in the Army is that sometimes when a firearm fires a round and it has insufficient powder or the powder is somehow not working correctly, the round will not be expelled fully from the end of the barrel. And they called this a pop but no kick, meaning there's no recoil. So it is possible to know in some instances when a round discharges a bullet, but the bullet doesn't leave the barrel of the gun. In that case, in Brandon Lee's case, there was a bullet that was still in the barrel. It wasn't attached to the cartridge. The cartridge that was in there was a blank cartridge. But nobody did what they should have done, which is put a little dental mirror behind the barrel with the firearm in an open position and look down the barrel to make sure it was clear. And as a result, that bullet was propelled by the powder in that blank into Brandon Lee, and it killed him. You would think that Hollywood would learn from all of that. But it is obvious, at least with respect to Mr. Baldwin, that he did not. He did not pay attention to that. Yesterday, the state put on an expert witness. And expert witnesses are supposed to be the pros from Dover who come in and tell you how it's supposed to be done. The prosecution has made an interesting choice here in that they have gotten a union armorer, meaning somebody who belongs to one of the many Hollywood unions, to come in and testify in this case. And the gentleman is exceptionally knowledgeable. He knows what he's talking about. I consider myself to be somewhat of an expert on firearms, and I haven't heard him say anything yet that I've disagreed with. And it is really interesting that he presents the facts in this case, his expert opinions in this case, in a manner that doesn't really slap out at Hannah Gutierrez-Reed very much. Basically, he's just digging a hole deeper for Alec Baldwin. And it's really amazing the level to which he does that. And that actually, I think, is helping the defense. There are two real criticisms that he has of Hannah Gutierrez-Reed in his testimony here. The first is about an exchange of firearms. Let's watch.
Why remember we know it's got to be is the battery off the gun now?
Did you see anything noteworthy in that clip?
Just muzzle discipline.
You said muzzle discipline?
And also a weapon.
Get a little closer to that microphone, would you?
My apologies, I'm sorry. Muzzle discipline, but more importantly, there was a weapon exchange that occurred with, I didn't see a safety check between those weapons. Not sure if it was a replica that she was handing off or a live firearm.
After discussing that, very briefly and more or less in passing about there not being a safety check, he admits that he doesn't know whether that's a real gun or a replica gun. Now, since he's not the guy who was doing the shooting in the scene, it's reasonable to believe it was probably a replica gun. In these next segments here, he takes the production company and Alec Baldwin to the woodshed over the way things are handled. Let's watch.
Set, ready, and action. One more. I forgot the recoil stuff. No, right away. Let's reload. Here we go. So, Helena. Hi. Hi. Here we go. Come on.
Well, I had to go closer because Danny did, so. You want...
We should have had two guns and both were reloaded.
What's happening there? Do you see this over on the right here?
So keep in mind, as I said previously, you will see a camera crew operating, and he's doing what's called a handheld right there. He's hand holding the camera and moving it, meaning it's not on a dolly or a track or anything of that nature. So that camera operator's hand holding that piece of equipment with operators behind him. Remember that the frame that you're seeing here has that exact same situation going on as well behind this. So it's a number of people out here, both behind that camera and behind the one that we're seeing POV from, okay? And that appears to be a full flash blank just from the report, the amount of powder that's leaving the barrel, the amount of report and gun smoke that's coming out. I would imagine that's a full flash blank. And one of the first rounds that he fired actually incapacitated the camera and operator in the smoke, meaning he was entirely too close to that camera to fire that. We have a minimum amount of distance that is required for safety when you're firing blanks, depending on what type of blank you're firing, and that was well within the safety zone.
So you have to ask, who does that testimony hurt? Well, it hurts Alec Baldwin, right? Because he is the one who's holding the weapon and pointing the weapon and discharging the blank. Does it have any washover or spillover on the armorer? No. Why are they getting into that? Unless it's a preview, a free preview for Alec Baldwin's attorneys. Even the best of prosecutors sometimes put on evidence they don't really need to put on in order to tell the whole story. And that may be the purpose here. We need to tell the whole story and not just Hannah's story, because this is not just Hannah that's involved. So pointing out all of the mistakes that Baldwin made, as well as the fact that Hannah had the opportunity to observe those mistakes, they might be trying to set the stage for, hey, this guy isn't very safe, and yet here you are, handing him a gun you haven't personally cleared. That could be the reason why they are taking this approach. I don't really know, but it's certainly a possibility.
You can see that it's all the way to the camera, which is approximately, I would say that's about 8 feet, 7 to 8 feet.
Is there when a blank is fired, is it possible that something is expelled from the firearm?
There is things expelled from the firearm. Now, movie blanks are a bit different than, say, a military blank because they're meant to be shot in closer proximities, et cetera, and you want all the particulates inside of the casing, i.e. the gunpowder, anything inside of there, to completely and totally burn up, almost like magic powder. You see the magicians throw the thing and all that paper burns up instantaneously, something to the effect of that. You would want it all to burn up as quickly as possible the minute it is ignited and leaves the muzzle of that weapon, okay? So there is a little bit of difference. However, it still sends unburnt powder and particulates out of that muzzle, which can put an eye out, burn the skin, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Not to mention the concussive force.
Now, in this segment, it's really interesting because his main criticism here is really of Baldwin, but he essentially makes the statement that in this low-budget film, where Baldwin is chief cook and bottle washer, he's the producer, he is the lead actor, he's funding this, it's his production company, all the money in it is probably coming out of his pocket. He expects this 24-year-old, wet behind the ears armorer, first real job like this, trying to do a good job, he expects her to tell this guy who is a legend in Hollywood, no, I'm going to slow down. I'm not going to work the way you want me to work. I'm going to work the way that is safe. Well, I agree with him that that would have been a wonderful thing to do and most likely the proper thing to do, but I'm going to tell you this. it ignores reality. That's not how Hollywood works, and if that woman had done that, she would never have worked on a film again, probably, because Baldwin would have had her blackballed. He would have told everybody how rude and intemperate this woman was. As a result, because she was, I think, a little bit intimidated by Alec Baldwin and his antics on set, this hurry, hurry, we got to get this done, hurry, hurry, all of that stuff, I think that probably caused her to be less cautious instead of more cautious. And then finally, what I was just alluding to, the defense gets up and basically paints him into a corner about how does the real world work in Hollywood.
So ideally, there would be a national body that would have a set hours, 40 hours minimum, then on-the-job training, a certain amount, and that would be the practice before an armor is certified.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, at the time of this movie, obviously in 2021, that was not the case. Is that correct, sir?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir.
Okay. And also, there is a difference, is there not, between union and a non-union armor?
Well, you can be in the union and work on a non-union show. The union armors, depending on which union you're in, like the 44 out of California has different regulations and different safety standards. So really is the point of the union gauges and follows the craft a little bit better, but it kind of interchanges depending on which job you want to work on.
Okay, now when from working over the course of your career, there's different tiers. There's lower tier movies, lower budget, and there's higher tier movies.
Correct.
Okay, sir, and I think you said that in your practice now, where you're at now, you try to work with the higher tier movies. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, sir, and you're established, you have your production company. You try to work with the reputable suppliers like ISS, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're aware from your experience that people just starting out that may be working on these lower tier movies, you're not going to have the kind of resources, management support, that kind of thing. Is that a fair statement?
It would be.
Okay, sir. And on those lower tier movies, would you agree with me? A lot of times because they're lower budget, because of how they allocate funds, there's unsafe practices that may occur.
That is correct. That would be a correct statement.
All right, well, that's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I think this is an interesting case. It's going to be interesting to see how it comes out. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments down below, or if you'd like, you can email me at the address above. If you have the opportunity today, try to do something kind for someone. It's always a good idea to be able to help people, to just maybe open a door, maybe tell somebody that, you like the cut of their suit or whatever it is. It never hurts to give people a compliment and smile at them and tell them nice things. It's just a neighborly thing to do, and kindness is never repaid. It's only passed on. One of these days, that kindness is going to come back to you. Thanks so much for watching. Catch me down here at the beach again next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.